Beyond Bedtime.
Welcome to Beyond Bedtime. I am Stooge Carmichael, your host, and I am back. But this is my last episode, and then the contract's up, and then no more Beyond Bedtime. But to celebrate, I'm going to play a little game of poker with Flem over here. Don't worry, I'll keep the stakes low. Nothing too serious. I'm not going to, wager whether or not I'll do another season up here. That'd be crazy after what happened last time. Anyway, you guys go ahead and listen to the finale while we play this game of poker. Thank you. Nathan and Walter versus the Costume People. Episode 8. Nouvelle, Etudes. On the far edge of the known universe, all the Nobotians sailed along on the cabinet Leviathan, making their way to a new destination. A destination beyond the realm of human understanding. But they weren't there. Not yet. Things got a little funky, a little wobbly, a little, musical along the edges of the unknown universe. And when Clark's ship burst forth from trillions of light years away, a grand rock symphony lit up the echo chamber of space. Jesse Stargazer looked up into the dark sky. "It's Clark! He's back! I knew it!" The other Nobotians looked up at the ship entering the artificial atmosphere of the cabinet Leviathan. They cheered. Toaster landed his hot dog spaceship on the deck of the cabinet Leviathan and opened the rear bay door. Nathan, Walter, Loki, Clark, Toaster, and Whippy walked out, holding the orb of blue stuff and the orb of red stuff. Nathan kept his new orb of purple stuff hidden away, as Clark had suggested to him. The Scion and Keith Overlord, surrounded by a guard of cautious Nobotians, approached the motley crew.
"Clark,"
said the Scion.
"do you have it?"
Clark showed his orb of blue stuff. "Got it right here." "And," Toaster said, we have the glove as well."
"What?"
said Keith Overlord.
"You brought the orb of red stuff here?"
"Well," Clark said, "everything was sort of happening quickly down there."
"You insolent fools! You have painted a target on our backs."
And, of course, Keith Overlord was right. It was less than 5 minutes later when a trail of enemy ships appeared in the atmosphere of the cabinet Leviathan. In fact, there were so many ships, you almost couldn't see space around them.
"There they are! Okay, I'm landing on that big cabinet-looking ship. I must have my orb back."
The fairest spaceship descended towards the deck of the cabinet Leviathan. The Leviathan, unfortunately, had not been designed to protect itself. The Nobotians were simply not well prepared for battle.
"Everyone hide!"
said Keith Overlord, who was acting frantic and overwhelmed. And, just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, Wapado and thousands of Glubber ships arrived as well.
There they are.
I am docking on that weird cabinet ship.
I must have my glove back.
On one end of the deck, Chester and his costume guards exited their ships. On the other end, Wapado exited his ship with Squiggles and a few Slim Jims and chocolate-covered strawberry guards. In the middle were the Nobotians, cowering inside miniature cabinet doors. A chaotic battle ensued. The Glubbers advanced on pogo sticks, throwing globs of hot sauce and squirting ketchup. The costumes, not conventionally strong, instead used their large numbers and tended to jump on top of their enemies, weighing them down as best they could. The Nebotians mostly hid or ran around flailing their arms. You see, the battle was chaotic because the immediate goal of the fighting was not clear. Yes, the Glubbers wanted their red orb. Yes, the costume people wanted their blue orb. The Nebotians weren't entirely sure what they wanted, other than all that fighting to stop. And as for Nathan and Walter, they had had their fun, but they were ready for all of this to end. Adventure was one thing, war, something else entirely.
Should we just give them their orbs back?
Walter said.
If we do that, customs will take over the world. And the Glubbers stole their orb from Toaster. That broke the promise to keep the balance.
This is such a mess.
Nathan, Walter, Loki, Whippy, Toaster, and Clark huddled behind a barricade on the middle of the Cabinet Leviathan surface, in the middle of battle, trying not to get smothered, or hit with ketchup, or a lint missile.
Do something!
Loki said.
Do what?
Walter said.
I have no idea what to do.
Whoopee!
Said Whippy.
Also, use the purple stuff.
The purple stuff? I thought we should never use the purple stuff.
Look all around us.
Loki said.
All this fighting. You need to do something.
Together, Nathan and Walter took the orb of purple stuff and unscrewed the cap.
What do we do with it?
Walter said.
I'm not sure. Let's pull a single, drop out, and see what happens.
Clark and Toaster were too caught up in the fighting to notice this conversation. Walter poured a single drop of purple stuff onto the surface of the Cabinet Leviathan. It hit the deck like a pin drop and evaporated almost instantly. Again, nothing happened. Then, with a shimmering wave, a viscous mirror appeared, like a portal to another world.
What the heck is that?
Nathan said. In the reflection of the portal, Nathan and Walter saw colors that didn't exist in the known universe, which were inherently indescribable in this story. I'm sorry about that. 2 lint cannon shots landed just a few feet away.
You better do something quick, Whippy!
Nathan said. He grabbed Walter's hand and pulled him along as he jumped through the portal created by the orb of purple stuff. Nathan and Walter rocketed through a tunnel. They were moving so fast, it almost felt as if they were motionless. They saw glimpses of their childhood, going to movies with Dad, the Rubik's Cube tournament, playing in the blue plastic pool in the backyard on a hot summer day. Then, they saw 2 grown men, 2 men who looked just like them, but older. They were surrounded by children, and laughter, and smiling. The new children ran around, laughing and playing, just like Nathan and Walter loved to do. And then the images started to blink. There was Nathan and Walter again, playing in the pool, but now it was nighttime. There were tiki torches lit in the yard, and their future selves working on a computer, arguing, making up, crying, laughing, and then the images switched back to Nathan and Walter, now as a baby, a toddler. Walter had just learned to sit, but he wasn't very good at it yet, and he fell back hard, hitting his head. Nathan, in his first act as a protective older brother, gently picked Walter back up, rubbed his head, and asked if he was okay. The images continued to blink like this, one after the other, faster and faster, until they saw millions, billions, trillions, an infinite amount of images like this. Nathan and Walter went beyond looking and closed their eyes, breathing in the wonder of what they were witnessing. Then, it was pure darkness. There was a warm feeling of comfort and floating. In the distance, a purple light sparkled, and then the darkness slowly turned into the color of dawn at its darkest. Then a warm glowing with yellows and golds and purples flooding the landscape all around them.
Welcome, Nathan and Walter. I am the potential leader of both the known and unknown universe. You may call me Beverly.
Beverly?
It's a family name.
Where are we?
This is the employee parking lot for non-space-time.
The employee parking lot of non-space-time?
That's right.
And why are we here then?
Oh, right. You are here because you won. It's over.
What?
You won. You mixed the red orb and blue orb and moved on to the next plane or dimension or whatever. Essentially, you took the direct shuttle to the employee parking lot of non-space-time.
That's it. We won. How? Why?
Because why not?
I don't understand. All we did was use the purple stuff and then left.
Right. You won. You people of space-time are very caught up with conflict resolution. Again, because why not? You have the orbs that everyone wants. You used them to leave the battle. You win. Hooray!
But what about Earth? What about our friends, our family?
Beverly smiled.
Why worry about any of that? You can just stay here and be winners. You can have pure happiness and satisfaction for eternity. Or
what? I don't want to leave everything behind.
Me neither.
You know, I think you may be onto something. I am actually glad to hear you want to think about this a bit first. I wanted to play you something. This music was written by a musician named Frédéric Chopin. He made many beautiful compositions, but this one in particular is my favorite.
As the music played, the universe lit up around them, the notes appearing as planets, stars, and black holes, all playing off each other.
Chopin did not lead an easy life. Though a child prodigy, he was not made rich from his brilliance and the music he created. He had difficult romantic relationships and was wary of any fame that came to him. As these things so often go, Frédéric Chopin spent most of his life as a sick man. He died young, at the age of 40. And yet, he created this. In all my experience in the known universe, the unknown universe, and beyond, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And it's not because Frédéric Chopin's life was easy. In fact, I think this is so beautiful because his life was hard and he persevered.
What does this have to do with us?
You might have won, but winning may not be the point. But this is great conflict. People are in trouble. And you two have a secret ability.
What is that?
The ingenuity of a child.
What does ingenuity mean?
It means go forth, live and transform, or not. Stay here, it's entirely up to you.
Walter turned to Nathan and said,
How will we help them when we go back?
We just need to use ingenuity or whatever he said.
Didn't we already win?
Maybe, but I don't care about winning right now. People need our help. Let's go.
Good luck.
Nathan and Walter re-entered space-time in the chaotic battle occurring on the surface of the cabinet Leviathan. ketchup, pogo sticks, and explosions rained around them. Clark saw them jump out of the portal. "Where have you two been?"
We took a trip.
To get some advice.
"Advice?" said Toaster. What advice?"
To use our ingenuity.
Ingenuity.
That's what I said.
"That's it? Use ingenuity? How the heck is that gonna help us?"
Relax, Clark. Me and Walter came up with a plan. You need to get your Novotians to come along with us.
Walter, holding the red orb, and Nathan, holding the blue orb, ran out into the middle of the battle.
Look!
Said Wapado.
My glove!
My blue stuff!
Said Chester.
Get them!
The armies of costumes and glubbers charged at Nathan and Walter. But Nathan held up his hand and said,
Hold on, I just have one question for you. What is the power of Glub?
Louie Noodles and the Cheese, who were in the middle of the pack of glubbers, immediately stopped fighting and picked up their instruments.
Did somebody say, what is glove?
All the glubbers turned their attention towards the band.
I'll tell you what glove is, what the power of it is. Hit it, boys!
All the glubbers stopped fighting and, you guessed it, started dancing. Nathan hadn't even been sure this would work. What a preposterous weakness for an entire species to have. But it did work. When the power of Glub rang out, the glubbers danced. The costumes paused for a moment to scrunch their faces and look over at the ridiculous dancing glubbers. Although, they had to admit, the song was catchy. But this song gambit wasn't even the craziest part of Nathan and Walter's plan. Faithful listeners, I understand there's an expression in your universe that goes something like, "This plan is so crazy, it just might work." Well, Nathan and Walter had come up with one of those. One of those plans that's really just half-baked. But remember, Nathan and Walter are merely children. And as for ingenuity, to answer Walter's question about what the word really means, well, I think it means when you have your back up against a wall, do whatever feels right, even if it doesn't make much sense. You might just record a 3.5-hour long children's podcast. But don't quote me on that, children. So, as the glubbers danced and the Novotians were distracted, Nathan and Walter shouted,
Novotians, now!
So, here was the craziest part of the plan. The Novotians ran full speed at the costume people, but they didn't fight them. They did what you were supposed to do with costumes. They wore them. All at once, thousands of Novotians selected individual costumes and wrestled them to the ground, and then simply put them on, like they got dressed. The costumes fought back at first. They struggled. But something about this felt, well, it felt right. The costumes had all been causing havoc for the last several months, and now they found themselves in the middle of a space battle at the edge of the known universe. And it was exhausting. All this conquering, all this fighting. And as they were warned by the Novotians, the costumes began to find themselves a sense of deep inner peace. And the Novotians felt good about trying something different. As they wore crazy costumes now, They seemed to see the universe in a different way, like they had the opportunity to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Literally. And who put on the old Santa suit? It was Keith Overlord. They spoke together.
What? What is going on? I feel funny. I feel
Calm. What have we
been fighting about.
Walter grabbed the spare megaphone from the scion of the Chancellor of Glorbus.
All you nutcases are fighting all over orbs. All of you refuse to work together.
But look at you. You're an interesting group of creatures. You have some amazing technology, fantastic abilities, cool ships. If you could stop fighting, maybe we could all...
Maybe we could try working together for a change. Mix things up. Stop digging in.
Just because you don't get along every time, with every little detail,
It doesn't mean we can't live together in peace.
Chester / Keith Overlord and the Nebotian - costume people half listened to Nathan and Walter's speech and half just listened to the music. They lost themselves to it and just swayed and danced. They were tired of fighting, and dancing, frankly, was much more fun. So the crazy space battle over the orb of blue stuff, red stuff, purple stuff eventually just turned into one big dance party. When presented with the absurdity of their fighting, the Nebotians, the Glubbers, the costumes, and the two Earthlings took some time and reconsidered. They realized, amongst other things, that all four groups had very interesting worlds and very interesting ways of doing things. It would be a shame not to share in all this. So, what happened? A new council was formed, an intra-orb, intrastellar, intra-time, and intra-people council. The Glubbers were represented by Toaster Strudel, the costumes by Derek, the Earthlings by Principal Goodman, and the Nebotians by the Scion of the Chancellor of Glorbus. The Scion, who was, by the way, already half Nebotian, half Glubber, was elected chairman. Nathan and Walter used the Orb of Purple Stuff to create portals between Waffle World, Earth, Nebo, and the Cabinet Leviathan. The Glubbers built a monorail that would travel through the portals. The Cabinet Leviathan became the first intra-dimensional cruise ship and was quite popular. Justin Bieber played the inaugural cruise. Keith Overlord retired from overlording and moved to Earth. He started a CrossFit gym in Connecticut and spent more time working out, but also making friends. Clark went off to college in Waffle World, of all places, where he began studying as a journalist, planning to start the first universe-wide newspaper. The costumes, now that they were relaxed and didn't want to take over everything and make it all crazy, moved throughout Earth, Waffle World, and Nebo, creating restaurants, theme parks, and absurdist television and art. When the costumes balanced their lives with sleep, interaction with family, and properly developed social networks, they were able to be productive and happy members of society. As for the Nebotians, well, using complicated galaxy tax breaks, they successfully wooed the furniture company IKEA to move their headquarters from Sweden to Nebo. There, they partnered in making cabinet studio apartments, cabinet homes, cabinet cars, cabinet clothing, and even cabinet Swedish meatballs. It was good stuff, affordable, but can you imagine a manual that needs to be usable across the entire universe? It still took forever to put these things together. Louis Noodles and the Cheese, Huey Lewis and the News, and Jerry Kisbet and Pandemonium's Nomenclature formed a supergroup. Kicking off in Times Square, they eventually made their way to Waffle World, then to Nebo and on to the Cabinet Leviathan on the outer reaches of the known universe. They sold out every show. Their new song, Back in Glove, became a #1 hit. Loki and Whippy formed a stand-up comedy duo and eventually signed on with Netflix for a 3-show deal. And as for Nathan and Walter, well, they went back to finish off elementary school first, and back to home. They still had the purple orb, as the Council of Orb decided they should be the ones to keep it. A few months later, all the students of Ambrosia Elementary School were told to bring in an item from home that was important to them and bury it in a time capsule to be opened 100 years in the future. Nathan brought in a Rubik's Cube. Walter, of course, forgot to bring in anything, and at the last minute, rooted through the bottom of his backpack to see what he had. He pulled it out. It was, you guessed it, the orb of purple stuff.
I don't want to hold this anymore.
Walter's turn, he stuffed it into the bottom of the capsule. He scribbled a note on it.
This is a crazy purple orb. Love, Nathan and Walter.
Then, Walter felt something funny, like he was being watched, or perhaps being listened to, from another dimension, another time and place, where people listen to stories in their cars, on trips, before bedtime, surrounded by their friends and family. He looked at Nathan and said,
I think the world is super weird.
Nathan looked up and smiled. Walter smiled too.
And I love it.
So that is the season finale of the first season of Beyond Bedtime. And, yep, I did it again. I lost to Phlegm, and now I have to stay up here in Neptune and record at least one more season of Beyond Bedtime. So, I very much hope you enjoyed Season 1, Nathan and Walter versus the Costume People. Please subscribe and stay tuned. We'll have some mini-sodes coming up soon and information on Season 2. Thanks again. Bye.